Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into a really compelling view on China's political system as presented by Professor Daniel Bell.
Yeah, it's interesting how his talk challenges some widely held Western assumptions about China.
Absolutely. You know, often the narrative is this stark democracy versus autocracy frame, but as Professor Bell explains, it's more like a distinct political meritocracy, deeply rooted in Chinese history and culture.
Indeed. Right, and that concept takes some time to get into, especially with the idea that China's system isn't about domination.
Exactly. It's not that Beijing has ambitions to rule the world, but more so it's focused on delivering material well being to its people.
Yeah, that's a crucial distinction. And what's cool is how the talk lays out a three-tiered system, you know? From local elections up to meritocratic promotions, it underscores just how unique the governance structure is.
Right? It's pretty nuanced. On one level, you have like grassroots forms of input with local elections, and then moving upward, the system becomes more about, demonstrating merit and competence.
That's what makes it fascinating. But then there's also the discussion about cultural misunderstandings, right? The West, for instance, tends to misinterpret the idea of harmony in China.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about sameness or suppressing dissent per se, but more like a culturally embedded respect for collective well being and
Absolutely.
stability.
I mean, wouldn't you say it's like comparing apples to oranges? The underlying values are just not the same between the two systems.
Yeah, it's like comparing different operating systems, you know? Both get the job done, but how they operate and what they prioritize is, well,
Right,
inherently
exactly.
different.
Yet, some critics argue that this version of political meritocracy still has its flaws, right? Like issues with accommodating public opinion.
True, and that's one of the tricky parts. While the system is built on the idea of merit and performance, there's still this challenge of achieving unity and actually listening to what the people want.
I see your point.
I mean, the argument often escalates to say that the Chinese system privileges state efficiency over open debate, but that's a bit of an oversimplification.
Right, hey, I'd challenge that a little. Don't you think that sometimes the lack of traditional debate might actually streamline decision making in a way that's beneficial?
Sure, I get that idea, but it's important to note that streamlined decision making might come at the cost of not capturing all public sentiments. It's like you might get faster answers but miss out on, the full diversity of opinions.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So then the point being made is not that there's no debate, but that the system inherently works differently than Western democracies.
Exactly, it's a fundamentally different principle. Rather than a system based on competing political parties, it's more a system focused on whether leaders can deliver results, particularly economic progress and overall well being.
Right, that's key. And speaking of progress, the discussion on China's economic miracle is intriguing too. The idea that its political legitimacy is largely tied to its success in delivering economic improvements to its people.
Yeah, it's almost like the system is evaluated by performance metrics. Building infrastructure and raising living standards become the real currency of legitimacy.
That's a unique take indeed.
And meanwhile, the West is often quick to label China's system as totalitarian. But Bell argues that's not really appropriate because it ignores these nuanced institutional differences. Yeah, I mean, the term totalitarian carries a lot of baggage.
It's true, labeling something that nuanced with such a blanket term really misses out on understanding the unique structural qualities here.
Right, exactly. It's like if you compare a well oiled machine to a clunky old system, you'd need different descriptors, you know?
Absolutely, it's a totally different ballgame. Another interesting piece was the notion that China doesn't have a missionary impulse. What do you make of that?
Oh, yeah, that part struck me as well. Essentially, it's the idea that China, historically and culturally, doesn't feel the need to export its way of governance to others. It focuses instead on its own, well, internal development.
That's right. Which is, in a way, a counter to the narrative that China is out to spread its influence globally by force of ideology.
Exactly, and it undercuts the simplistic West versus East binary. It's more like a civilization state that values its own continuity over active global campaign.
Yeah, that's really refreshing to hear. So essentially, Beijing's approach is more inwardly focused, prioritizing stability and order rather than, imperial ambitions.
Exactly. It's a very strategic, almost patient approach. It seeks to offer material benefits and preserve cultural continuity, not necessarily to impose its system on others.
Spot on.
And there's also an element of self awareness in China's governance style, that it's aware of its historical trajectory and using that to guide its modern policies.
Yeah, that historical consciousness really sets it apart. However, some might argue that the reliance on historical narratives could, ironically, also lead to resistance to change and entrenched power structures. What do you think?
That's a valid critique. I mean, while the historical approach lends legitimacy, it can also constrain innovation in governance if the old ways become too rigidly adhered to. But at the same time, it provides a kind of stability in a world of rapid change.
Yep, absolutely. So, it's a double edged sword then, balancing tradition with progress.
Precisely. It's a delicate equilibrium that the Chinese political system seems to try to maintain, even if it sometimes gets challenged by modern demands for more public input and transparency.
That's really interesting. And bringing it back to the title, Beijing does not want to rule the world. It sort of encapsulates how, despite common misconceptions, China's ambitions are far less imperialistic than what many assume.
Exactly. It's more about internal efficiency and state building than a rush for external domination.
That's the takeaway.
And yet, the fact that the West clings to the democracy versus autocracy narrative shows how complex these global perceptions really are. There's a lot of misinterpretation that boils down to fundamental differences in values and approaches.
Right, it's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Yeah. It's a reminder that political systems are embedded in their own histories and cultures, making it hardly fair to compare them directly on one dimension.
Absolutely. It's a multidimensional game, and if we oversimplify it, we're missing the rich context that shapes how decisions are made, both at the local and the national levels.
Indeed. So, to wrap up, the discussion really encourages us to rethink our assumptions and acknowledge that different systems have their own internal logics that might not align with our familiar models.
Exactly. It's a call to appreciate diversity in governance and to look beyond simplistic binaries. It reminds us that each system, whether we see it as meritocratic or democratic, is deeply intertwined with its society's unique tapestry.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that kind of nuanced understanding is essential, especially in our globalized world where labels can often be misleading.
Exactly. So, next time we hear talk about China, let's remember that behind those headlines lies a complex story of historical depth, cultural priorities, and a system that really is in its own league.
Totally agree. Thanks for the engaging chat about this. It's been really enlightening, digging into how China's not just another global power with imperial dreams, but something uniquely its own.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. Let's keep challenging our perspectives and appreciating those deep, nuanced differences.